All right, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. In the Image Clothing Company. This is one of our fours, okay? The four sides to In the Image Clothing Company exist. This is one of them, though, where we allow the human body to work. Allowing the body to work is our slogan. This is the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. And, we've got a lot of things going on. Our bodies, to clothe them where we do. The human body is only what it is. It can only ever work activated as a whole. There's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no opinion to it. We discuss things so thoroughly you couldn't possibly dispute what we say, because we don't get to decide truth. We're designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. We are a clothing company here because anything that clothes the human being, well, the way that God clothes the fields with grass, just something placed onto the body, is placed onto the body. And there's only one way the human body could ever work. We've got joints of material meshing with joints of body parts, all right? We've got joints of body parts meshing with joints of material. Okay, these things have to mesh. There's only one way the human body could ever work. With the bones, only the shape and length that they are, and the muscles, only the shape and length that they are. Bones connecting directly to each other through ligaments, and then, there's just cartilage, which is a little layer of cushioning between the bones so they don't wear out. Muscles connect two bones through tendons and only pull, and they do it directly in line. Okay, the human body only pulls, a video we reference often under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here, but just a huge focus to understand that the body can only pull to do anything. Okay, muscle fibers contract, they fire and get closer together. You know what else fires is the sun. And let's not overheat this little device, mid-video, because then we'd probably have to miss out on the fullness of what this could have been, because the device would turn off and shut down and say, hey, excessive heat warning. Technology. Okay, so yeah, the body just only does what it does. We put clothing on it. Anything that clothes the human being is clothing. Glasses, jewelry even, but hats and pants, tops, shirts are tops. Yikes. Shoes, if I didn't say that already. Undergarments, whatever you put on your body, it's got to work for the body the only way the body works. We get into chronic patterning. We just do. As human beings, bone spurs in the body get built up when the body's not allowed to track in line because things placed on it that it's trying to work around, okay? Scar tissue also just gets built up in the body. Dante is here, my standard poodle. He's down here on the ground on a towel. But, things like oversized clothing and just years within oversized clothing, however long it is, but maybe it's quite a long time, or imbalances of any kind in clothing. And there's a lot of imbalances in modern clothing design, and we've got clothing designs being shipped across the entire earth in ways that couldn't have happened before we had the technology to do that. And so any imbalances that are in our clothing that is just about universally worn across the planet affects people the same across the planet. Shoelaces and drawstrings, these are just ropes tied on or around the body. Anywhere you could tie something one side over the other on the body will twist the body, and the body just has to stay in its neutral positions. Like the wrist, like the shoulder, like the elbow, like just leaning left or right from standing vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. Leaning forward or leaning back from just standing vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. There's a neutral to everything in the body, okay? But gravity is a big point. We've got this vertical pull of gravity that never changes on the planet Earth, and then its horizontal surface beneath our feet. And this is a 90-degree angle, a perpendicular right angle that just never changes. The body never changes. The body can't be trained of the human being. It's impossible. That's why people keep trying to do it. You'll never get enough of what's not for you. And what else is not for you besides, not training your body is, don't believe me, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, any of our team members under In the Image Clothing Company, including even our poodles, and I'll discuss what that could even mean to you, but just meaning truth is truth. We can discuss truth as human beings, but we can't decide it or change it. we say some things that sound crazy here under In the Image Clothing Company, but it's not our choices. And God designed us. Not only did God design us, He also designed the earth. You know, God designed us in His image, so He had to first look like us to design us the way He looked. And God is unchanging, also called the truth. The truth is the same, yesterday, today, and forever, meaning always. If something's true once, it's always true. The truth is, there's always only been one way the human body could ever work. It's got bones that are immovable by themselves, so they can't go anywhere until they connect to another bone. And they're only the shape that they are where they connect, and they're only the length that they are. There's only one way the human body could ever work. You know, and musculature is a secondary thing to the bones of the body. It's only there to move the bones. The body's about a position. And this is the thing, you know, gravity is a huge focus, keeping our bodies over Earth's gravity. A video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Staying in your center line. A video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. And yeah, your center of gravity. There's another video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. My countenance kind of dropped because this is just as real as it gets. Don't believe us, but truth is truth. It's as obvious as it is once you see it, is a phrase I also say often. As the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, in this for life to lead it, me, Evan Strong. This video's title, by the way, is The Importance of No Excess Material on the Front of Clothing. And I'll get into it fairly deeply, but we just couldn't possibly train the human being to do anything. We have a vertical pole of gravity and a horizontal surface to its Earth. Well, the Earth is where the gravity is, you know, pulling us to. The body has opposing bends, okay? The ankles bend backward, the knees bend forward, the hips bend backward, the low back bends forward, the mid back bends backward, then the upper back, which is just the neck, the cervical spine of the human being, it bends forward. We've got these even mathematical opposing bends to stay vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull that never changes, atop the horizontal surface we stand on. Okay. Of our planet Earth. There's just no opinion to it. You couldn't possibly train the body. That's what I was saying, mathematics, physics, and mechanics. You know, physics is a form of mathematics as far as I'm aware. The human body is just mechanics is a video we have under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here. Dante was in that video with me. There's just only one way the human body could ever work. Don't believe me, but there's a normal. The human body's only normal. It always goes back to normal. You can work out and gain muscle mass only for it to go away. Back to how your body was before, once you stop trying to work out to get an excessive amount of muscle mass. You know, there's only one way the human body ever does anything. It's designed by God. It does things by itself. It blinks and it breathes and it pumps blood through the entire system of the circulatory processing within the human being. Anyway, there's only one way the body works, and so we place clothing on our bodies and we get into imbalances. And that's what we do here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, is get out of chronic patterning and scar tissue, bone spurs build up in the body, like I say, and we rid these things. You know, and you can watch my transformation. Wow, it's nothing to do with me, but truly, you know, I've gone before doing the things that we discuss as In the Image Clothing Company because I'm the founder. My name is Evan Strong. My body's changed so much, you know, because there's only one way the body works, and so we just have to allow it to. It's the only end. Allowing God's design of the human being to just function, because we'll never change how it works. You go to the doctor's office, and all they're trying to do is get your body back to how it works. They're not ever trying to get your body to do anything. You can't. It's impossible to get it to do something it's not designed to do. It's not designed to live forever, and we all die. Anyway. Yeah, we get into imbalances, man. We get into imbalances. The body's got rotations, the body's got hinges and levers and just functionality in all the ways that it does, and that's it. It's just all the ways that it does and no other way. You know, there's only one way the human body could ever work. It's no kind of sales pitch. It'll never change. Come back in 60 years and see if this video's information is still valid. and it will be. And that's the case for anything we do under In the Image Clothing Company. As long as we're aligning it with the truth of God, there's only truth to life. There's no opinion that could matter on truth, you know. So the importance of no material that's excessive on the front of our clothing. This is the thing. We are blunt, bold, raw, and real in the Image Clothing Company. It's windy, I get it. You know, if you hear some wind noise, well, you can also hear the words I'm speaking in this. And as long as you can, that's the point, you know. Just another date-marked documentation on the 7th plus 1 day. It's actually the 8th today of March 2026. Okay. So there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, which is one of our fourths, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, okay? And you don't have to be religious. You don't have to believe in anything. I don't believe in anything. But there's truth to life, you know. Well, you can't even believe in anything until you get here first to have a belief. And so, how'd you get here? Well, you can't believe something about it. It already happened. You know. So truth is truth. It never changes. But it's just deep insights on life. You know, we're all human beings, the same thing, placed on the same earth, designed by the same God. We just talk about it. Through the lens of the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's no lens, though. It's just the truth of all things. And that's a weird thing to be able to say like that. Anyway, yeah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We discuss life as it is because life's only what it is, even when you want it to be something else. And you know how hard that is if you do. So don't try to don't try to have things be something besides what they are, and then we can all be just content. Except we're imperfect human beings who need to rely on a perfect God. But that's where the word surrender comes in. Man, this is like an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, more than a video on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company so far. This is awesome. This is like Sunday. It's the Sabbath. Today's Sunday, and I didn't go to church. All right, here we go. Let's talk about the episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled, Being Behind Yourself. The body works in a way that's kind of behind itself. The shoulders only ever work behind the head, okay? We talk about this. We discuss the anatomy of the human body in such depth under In the Image Clothing Company that even though we say things different than a lot of people who have gone to school longer than I've currently been alive, possibly, you know, physical therapists and personal trainers, chiropractors, orthopedic people, and doctors, you know, it doesn't matter. The body only does what it does. We've got to start with our feet on the ground. You know, the importance of zero drop shoes. A video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. Zero drop is the term in any brand of shoe that just means flat on the bottom, just like the planet Earth's surface that God made for us to stand on with our feet that only work the way they do. We've got feet at our very foundation. They grip arches inward and oppose the center line of the human being, keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. Because the body does have a center line, by the way. This video is kind of all over the place, but it's great. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw naturally stabilizing the entire body. These things are in the center line because Earth has a vertical center line to its pole of gravity. We have to stay centered. There's no pain to it. There's two sides to the body. You know, maybe yours is different. Amputation, deformity, major surgery, or birth defect. Something like this, or maybe not, but, you know, that sets your body apart a little bit or quite a bit. You can only be set apart from the universal human design. There's only one way the body and its baseline structure could function, actually. This is awesome. I love this video. Okay. So yeah, we've got this center that needs to be there to our bodies, but in all the ways over Earth's gravity, front to back and left to right, and then all the rotations of the body as well. We just have only a neutral to everything. And in this case of just standing vertically, it's the vertical pole of Earth's gravity. So being behind yourself, this episode that I'm referencing of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, you know, we're on episode 204 as of today's date, the 8th of March 2026. But a lot of what I discussed in this episode was when the body's working properly, it's kind of like we're standing behind ourselves. You know, Our shoulders only ever work behind our head. One of the three bones of the shoulder is called the scapula or shoulder blade. It's those big bones on our upper back, and they sit behind our rib cage. All these bones that wrap around our lungs to cage the lungs with, to protect them from the center line in the front here at the sternum. These bones wrap around the body and connect into the center line of the body in the rear at the spine. And behind our rib cage, we've got these two bones on our upper back. They've got a lot of natural motion to them, unless clothing's altering them. Seriously, okay. It's not a stretch or a sales pitch. Clothing's the only thing physically placed on us. Our bodies are a physical thing. They're just a mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth. Okay, there's only one way the body could function. Just, how God designed it to. And we design clothing as human beings, and we place it onto our bodies if we do. So we have to just have it mesh with the body the way the body works. And these bones on our upper back, called the scapulas or shoulder blades, they sit behind the rib cage. Okay, the shoulder is vertically supported by musculature connecting to the base of the skull of the human being, the base of our head in the rear. And the largest muscle doing the most work to vertically support the head, really, is the upper trapezius muscle, which connects from the top of the shoulder, the top and back part of the shoulder, along that shoulder blade that's sitting behind the rib cage. Then it comes up and connects to the base of the rear of the skull, right off the side of the spine. It also connects to the spine of the neck, the cervical spine, okay? So our shoulders are being pulled up, is the point, from the top of them, kind of the top and back part of the shoulder, up to the base of the skull in the rear of our head, and our spine back there, the neck. So yeah, our shoulders come up and back. The shoulders just connect to the spine, which is in the very rear of the body, and then to the base of the skull, which is the very rear of the body. And one of the three bones of the shoulder is that scapula or shoulder blade. There's one on each side of our upper backs, and that allows for motion of the shoulder, working with this collarbone or clavicle in the front here that starts at the center line of the body in the front, at the top of the sternum. It comes up and out and becomes the edge of the shoulder, meeting the end of the scapula or shoulder blade, and then the upper arm bone or humerus. These three bones become the shoulder joint. That's how we have motion in our shoulders, okay, is where these three bones mesh. But yeah, those scapulas only ever sit behind the rib cage. And then as we hang our arms down with gravity's pull, that's just neutral, vertical with Earth's gravity. Now we just put our arms straight in front. We've just got full motion in our arms if our feet are flat on the ground to begin with, and the rest of our body traveling up isn't altered. The shoulders just work behind the body. That's just how they connect to the spine, behind the body. There's these trapezius muscles, not only the upper trapezius, but there's mid trapezius and lower trapezius, from those scapulas or shoulder blades into the center line of the body in the rear at the spine, pulling the shoulders together to the spine from those big bones on our upper back, the scapulas, okay, or shoulder blades, just two names for the same bone. So you've got that going on back there, Anyway, being behind yourself, I talked a lot about black women with their braids. You know how black women have those, I'm just saying because they've got different hair, genetically, usually. And it's a lot of work to try to comb or brush through that really thick hair they have. So these people who do, anyone can do it, but, they'll have these really thick braids a lot of the time. They'll get like hair woven into their own hair, and they've got just like heavy hair off the back of their head. And the reason I'm saying this, other than just giving context, I guess, is that's heavy. I used to have this friend, and she had these braids like that. And, I'd give her a hug. Where's Dante? Oh, good boy. And it's like you're hugging like 4 or 6 inches of hair off the back of this woman because she's got these braids. It helps with posture, okay? That's why I'm saying it, no joke. I talked about it in the episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Being Behind Yourself. That's the point. Because if you've got all that weight from that hair on the back of your head, you see these black girls. I'm just being so real about this. Just to be clear, this is really the point. And they've got some good posture. You know, a lot of the time they'll stand like very, very vertical. You don't have to just be black skinned, but you know, people with that really thick hair like that, you know, hair that just naturally grows so thick, we're just different where we are as human beings. You know, there's a universal human design, but we've got our differences where we do. That hair is a lot to deal with. You know, talk about poodles. Dante's got curly hair too, you know. Yeah, seriously, you know, so they'll put braids in it like that because then they don't have to try to comb through the hair. You know, it's just kind of all contained in these braids. They just redo it every now and then. Seriously, I'm saying this because that's what the episode was about. A lot of it, being behind yourself, that puts the weight of your body back behind your rib cage. Well, even just having long hair in general, no matter what color your skin is. All right, that's funny. Yeah, but just having long hair, and I've had long hair. I had hair that was at least down to like my armpits, you know, probably about right around 2 foot long hair, maybe 22 inches. Pretty sure it was at least somewhere around there when it was at its longest. But you put your hair in a ponytail behind your head, you've just got more weight behind your head, and it kind of drops your whole body like back behind yourself. It kind of drops you onto your heels. And that's a good thing. There's a video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled Keeping Heels on the Ground. Okay. Yeah, we need to keep our heels on the ground, actually, which opposes what a lot of people might say. But we grip these arches in our feet inward from the outside. You know, to grip inward, you have to start outside first to come in. And the pinky toes are the shortest, and they're on the outsides of the feet. And so if we have our heels up off the ground, like a heel on a shoe, a man-made shoe. Dante got up when I slapped my own hand. Good boy, Dante dog. You know, we're just constantly in a state of plantar flexion or pointing the toes. So yeah, zero drop, the term in any brand of shoe, just keeps our feet flat on the ground. Like we didn't have any man-made shoes on, but we were standing on the God-made earth. Okay, we live in this unnatural, modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth. And I'm just talking about black girls' hair as if I'm just so racist. Is that what it is? No. Or maybe, huh? Anyway. If we have heels under our shoes, we're in a constant state of pointing the toes or plantar flexion. But there's a neutral from pointing the toes, plantar flexion, or lifting the toes, which is dorsiflexion. And that neutral is the surface of the planet Earth, or the zero drop term in any brand of shoe. And so, anyway, if we've got heels on our shoes to begin with, and I'm talking even like a little bit of elevation to the heel, we lift our heel off the ground, and then our pinky toe, which is the shortest, just can't grip the ground. And we grip at our feet, arches, inward, starting from the outside. You can do it with your hands. It's no kind of opinion. I don't have an opinion on what I do under In The Image Clothing Company. We've got a universal human design, no matter what color your skin is. I love to say that. People are so afraid of talking about race. It can be a little bit, you know, of a touchy subject. I get it, but it's good. It's good to talk about for that reason, you know. Some of these black girls, man, they got some thick hair. Well, then you braid this, you know, artificial hair, or maybe it's like donated hair that's real hair, but you know, into your own hair. It's a lot of weight back there, and all of a sudden you go like this, you know, and you're just standing nice and proper on Earth's vertical gravity pull. Anyway, that's why I'm talking about it. It's funny, and because it's like cool to touch on touchy subjects that people might be too afraid to talk about. It can be a little bit frightening. Sorry, Dante. It's okay. I startled Dante. I'm just picturing people trying to like knock me out because I mentioned the word black. Wow. What is going on here? Well, stick around and find out, because there's a reason I'm doing this how I'm doing it. Okay, you'll see at some point, maybe, if you're willing to. Okay, so we need to kind of be behind ourselves. It's just how it works. To open the rib cage, Well, yeah, the heels have to drop to the ground from, yikes, right, our man-made shoe heels, if we have them. Take them out. Put your feet on the ground. You know, on the planet Earth, it's beautiful. We live up Utah, under In the Image Clothing Company. For the sake of the beautiful, diverse nature, you know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the headquarters are here in Utah. I'm Utah native, as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. But there's a lot of reasons we live up Utah. The earth, it's horizontal under our feet, and our heels have to be on the ground to actually grip and arch, you know. The pinky toes and the pinky fingers. A video under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company here, Dante and I filmed. They're the neutral. The pinky finger is straight out from the outside of the forearm. That's the neutral. Then the wrist can go down, or the wrist can come up. Neutral, okay. There's only one way the human body could ever work, no matter what color your skin is. I'm just saying that we've got different types of hair, you know, depending on our ethnicities. Sorry, Dante, I stepped on your foot a little bit. That's what I mean, you know, you've got some really thick hair sometimes that it's heavy. And then if you braid braids into it, it drops the weight back behind you. And also, you know, the hair is just right down your back with Earth's gravity, because if you don't have long hair, it just doesn't lay on your back. But if your hair does, it kind of just reinforces this vertical position that we could stand in as human beings. You know. Also, removing all tags from clothing is one of In the Image Clothing Company's 2 prerequisites to not alter the body, in addition to where we just discussed clothing sits baseline for every body who has one, or everyone who has a body, because we're all human beings. You know? Yikes. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And so, yeah, removing all tags from clothing, they're just in the way. It's like having a leaf from a tree just stuck between your clothing and your skin. You know, tags in clothing just started to happen tens of years back from today's date, the 8th of March, 2026. Because, is it the 9th of March, 2026? It's Sunday. Artificial, unnatural, and synthetic, synonyms with fake. You know, these things are what our clothing started to be able to be made out of when these materials got invented as human beings. Natural, neutral, and normal, on the other hand, literally in this case, wow, are synonyms with how the body works. You know, natural and neutral and normal. Normal, isn't that great? Yeah, it would be. If we didn't get altered, that'd be the ideal. Anyway, chronic patterning. We have tags in our clothing and it just pushes our body out of its only working position. But if you got some long hair hanging down the back of your head, it'll push that tag that's often in the rear of the collars of our tops at this time period against your body, instead of having that little gap be caused by the tag back there. You know, we've got muscles right there, the upper trapezius and the mid trapezius, you know, between those shoulder blades and the spine, those scapulas and the spine. So tags will deactivate our musculature. They'll change our body's only working position, but the human body can only ever work activated as a whole. Everything's there with its own individualistic role to play. Oh, shoot. So no compensation can happen in the body for something not working properly, you know, by something else trying to do the role, because they have different functions. They only do what they do. All right, so I'm just picturing, you know, these heavy braids on your back, standing vertical, okay? And they push that tag against your spine, so there's not a gap back there. If you haven't removed a tag from your clothing, if your clothing came with a tag in it because maybe it was made from poison, you know, unnatural materials, they seep into the body's pores. The holes in the skin of the body where sweat or perspiration comes out. The skin of the body is called the epidermis. There's a video here under the main site of In the Image Clothing Company titled The Epidermis. It's the skin of the body. It's actually an organ. But, you know, we can poison our bodies without even knowing it. Unnatural materials, they're just poison, truly, placed onto the body, and it's soaking into the body. So these tags are there to label that so we know. It's like a warning label, truly. You're putting poison on your body just so you know it's made out of oil, the tag says. You know, poly blends, polyester, polyurethane, polypropylene. You know, these are just blends of oil pumped from the earth. Not poly like Polynesians. Just talk about a lot of races in this video. See if we can race their way to hell with being judgmental, you know, calling people racist when they're racing into the place that just is the place they don't need to be. You know, I'm just saying what I'm saying, so hear me correct if you would. Because there's a real reason to this whole discussion of being behind yourself. The importance of no excess material on the front of clothing. You can't be behind yourself if you've got excess material on the front of your clothing. Oh my goodness. So the rib cage, it opens from the front. Essentially, there's cartilage connecting the ribs to the sternum in the front of the body in a way that's different than in the rear of the body from the ribs to the spine. The rib cage expands in the front, really, because the spine then gets straightened like you've got really heavy hair. I mean, that's really what I'm saying. You know, you've just got really heavy hair pulling down on your skull from the rear, because the top of the spine is the base of the skull. Okay? The bottom of the spine is the top of the hips or the pelvis. And so to have a neutral head position, which is a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, the natural head position, the neutral head position, well, they're synonyms, and so it's actually titled the latter of the two. As far as I remember, I filmed it with Dante here, my standard poodle, my current one, first of many. Let's talk about the position of the body when it's behind itself. I mean, that's how I discuss it, because that's how it feels. We grip arches in our feet, and we have different length toes. We filmed a video yesterday here, you know, in this location, just right over here, and placed it here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. Dante and I, my standard poodle, did. We have different length toes. The video was titled Different Length Toes. So the toes, we roll evenly off the ends of our different length toes to share the weight. That's what they're for. That's how they work if they're not altered. If the body's not altered, and it could be up to the head or out to the fingertips, something altered, you know, traveling down through the body's kinetic chain. The body's all connected, and then it could affect the feet, you know, from anywhere else in the body. Something just not working properly, you know, and it happens where it does. But if we can address it, let's do that. But we don't know what we don't know. We can't be held accountable for what we don't know. You don't know how heavy that hair is, bro, until you feel it. Those braids, oh my goodness, I'm not kidding. So being behind yourself, you know, the feet arches, they grip not only inward, but back. Okay, just picture different length toes. Different length toes. We've got a video here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled The Toes Really Grip. And the toes really grip, but only if they're allowed to. We need fingernails and toenails as human beings, and they can be dirty, you know, underneath, if they get that way. Staying clean, though, is a good idea. So if our fingers and toes need to be supported, what's going to do that? Our toenails and our fingernails. Fully to the tips of the fingers and toes to back and support them. That's why God gave them to us. Okay. Cut relatively flat on the tips so we can stay in this neutral position of both the wrist and the ankle, the gripped arches in the feet, and the rounding to our hands that correlate with them, that you could call hand arches. Okay, the feet, though, they have to really grip from the toes, having support from the nails, right? But then the feet have toes that are different lengths, and so as the toes grip, they pull in and back. That's just the length of the toes. It's just the shape of the bones. It's just how the body works, and only, no matter what color your skin is. I don't know why I'm focused on that, but I love it. Throwing myself under the bus, you know, by not actually saying anything wrong, but, you know, you could be taken out of context any way you could be. So please hear what I'm saying and not what you're hearing, because I only said what I did, and for really good reasons, too, in this case. And a lot more than may be able to be seen at first glance. Let's talk about the different length toes. As you pull back, your body kind of comes behind itself. You know, that's just how it works. The toes grip in and back, keeping 2 points of contact in the feet. A video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company. The toes are gripping from the toes to the heel of the foot. Okay, 1 point, 2 point of contact. We pull from the toes to the heel. 1 point of contact to the toes, 1 point of contact to the heel. We grip an arch. Then we have the height of a gripped arch. A video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company. The height of a gripped arch. The arches in our feet rise. Man, I'm getting faster at speaking as the video is progressing. But yeah, we just have that springing ability to our feet, you know, when our arches grip and rise. Okay, then we have that actual void space under the foot that is the arch of the foot. So, man, am I knowledgeable about this or what? Don't believe me. Truth is truth, though. Airplanes flying make noise, you know, and then you can hear it in the microphone of the video. So our bodies work back behind themselves is how it feels. Our feet grip and they pull back. Our shoulders sit behind our head. Man, we've got a real plane coming, meaning one that's going to be pretty loud as it comes right over our heads here. Okay, I'll wait for just a bit here for the noise of the airplane. I mean, if you're not gonna go to church, at least stand out in the field and try to do what you can to end the racial division of the human beings by saying some questionable things and posting it publicly on the internet. Anyway, see what I mean? I'm only doing what I'm doing here. You can have all your opinions on it, and you're wrong. If you're wrong. What I'm saying is, this is awesome. I love this video so much. Because we have to be behind ourselves, essentially. You know, opening up the rib cage, it opens from the front. We've got a video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company titled, The Diaphragms of the Neck. You know, and we've got muscles that pull up on our couple upper ribs, and that essentially straightens the spine because it opens the front of the rib cage just with the angle of the pull of these muscles, the scalenes, you know, up and back from the upper ribs up to the cervical spine, the spine of the neck. Okay, man, there's another airplane. Dante, you start talking about some harsh topics and you change the world. I love it. Hey, listen to this. We have to stand in a position where the front of our bodies open up, okay? Because our spine's in the rear, and it's our vertical support on Earth's vertical gravity pull. And so if we want to stay standing up, we got to be as vertical as we can. That's why I'm mentioning the hair. You've got heavy hair behind the head of your body. Well, that's going to put you in a good position. There's a video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company titled, Looking Down Opposes Bad Posture. And seen with context, it's the case, okay? When we look down, by pivoting on our skull, at the top of the spine, but the base of the skull, it straightens our spine. And now we're more vertical on Earth's gravity. There's a video here under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company titled, The Natural Curve in the Spine. It goes right along with the other video under the main side of In the Image Clothing Company here titled, The Natural Bend in the Knee. Okay, we have a natural bend in the body because we do have these measurable mathematical opposing bends from bottom to top of our bodies to stay vertical on Earth's gravity. Measuring Truth is episode 200 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast's title. Okay, you can measure these things, don't believe me. Get your tape measure out if you want. Measure the length of your hair. Because if you've got long hair pulling down in the back of your head, it'll open up the front of your body, okay? But if we have excess material on the front of our clothing, it'll close off the front of our bodies. Okay, this is what I'm saying. Clothing truly is the only fix to human beings' physical problems. I don't have a sales pitch. I don't have clothing to sell as of today's date yet. Okay, the 8th of March, unless it's the 9th of March, it's 2026. It's Sunday here in Utah. Yeah. Clothing is the only thing physically placed on our bodies. Our bodies are a physical thing. And so, you know, God designed the body to work. If we never altered the body, it would just work. Within our own individualistic situations, it just works. The body, you don't see animals doing stretching routines and workouts. And also the human beings that you see doing stretching routines and workouts keep doing them day after day after day after day and don't seem to be getting anywhere. Or they get somewhere until they stop and their body goes back to the human body's only normal. And then you've got these other people in life that never do anything like this, to try to get their body to do anything. And they're just hanging out on the beach a lot of the time, maybe with no shoes on. Their bodies are working great. Because the body's designed to work if we allow it to. That's the thing. You've got these people living in warm climates. Their bodies usually work better than other people living in cold climates. Their bodies are less restricted. People are out there shirtless, maybe, you know, swimming. You know, men, you know, or women, they're wearing swimsuits, you know, which is a lot less restricting to their bodies than bundling up in clothing to stay warm in a warm climate. This is the truth. That's what I'm saying, you know. Man, I don't have an opinion here on what we're really doing under In The Image Clothing Company. We're doing a lot, and there's 4 sides, and we do a lot on each of the 4 sides too, you know, so it applies to you. Anyway, every body has one. Everyone has a body. They're all the same, you know. The skin color could be different. Your hair type could be different. Your blood type could be different, you know. There's only one way the body works, though, and we have to open up the front to stay vertical on Earth's gravity. You know, this superhero type thing, you know, where you rip your shirt off from the front? Well, that's a very functional position. You open the front of your body, and now you're standing vertical because your spine's in the rear. That's what I'm saying, all right? There's no opinion to this. This is what I am saying. We've got a lot of clothing designs nowadays that are damaging the body. Things like rotated seams in clothing are a big point. You know, this is not necessarily on the front of the body, but just to show you some context in this video, we are In The Image Clothing Company. We do it as we do it. We do it blunt, bold, raw, and real. We're talking about race, which is such a touchy subject in modern day. We're just human beings, and that's why I do it, to show that, okay? But also for the context, you know, people with that kind of hair, they've got heavy hair behind their bodies when you put those braids in your hair. Oh my gosh, it's as real as it gets, because it's just, oh my gosh, I'm in this for life, man. I mean, that's what I'm saying, is sometimes we need these kind of things, you know, these pieces of context to understand, you know, why people have better, what we could call posture as other people. Truly, a lot of times it's things like this, the weight of their heavy hair is beneficial for them to stand vertically on Earth's vertical gravity pull. I'm not joking. It's not like I'm making jokes only. I'm lightheartedly speaking on what's actually happening, and I'm joking through it. But no, this is really the case. That's what I mean. That's why I'm saying it. Yeah, shoot. Oh, man. Yeah. So, if you open up the front of your body, you're essentially closing the rear. But muscles only pull, or they only contract. They only get closer together to work. By an electrical system sent from the brain, these electrical signals cause the muscle fibers to fire and pull closer together. Okay. Stretch goes the opposite direction of the only way that muscles could ever work. The only way the human body works is if its musculature works to move its skeletal frame. You know. If not, now you do. But don't believe me. This is how it works. So we've got stretch in clothing that came just tens of years ago from today's date. The 8th or maybe 9th of March 2026. It's a Sunday. Stretch goes the opposite direction of the only way the body could ever work. There's no opinion to it. And stretching your body is going to damage your body. Your body has an even level of contraction on one side versus the other side of the neutral. Even levels of contraction pull on either side from the neutral to stabilize in the center. Just standing up, we pull from the left and pull from the right, opposing each other to stay in the center. There's opposition, there's opposing muscles. With the human body only pulling, we pull to close a hinge joint like the elbow, but we also pull on the back side or the opposing side to extend the elbow. We only pull even in what seems like a push. There's only one way the human body could ever work, no matter what color your skin is. All right, here's the thing. Now that we've got that out of the way, man, yeah, seriously, we have to either pull from the front of our bodies or pull from the rear of our bodies, and that's how we stay vertical front to back on Earth's gravity with these even opposing bends from the bottom to top. The ankles, the knees, the hips, the low back, the mid back, and the upper back, which is the neck. Okay, we have to just stand vertical if we're going to. Otherwise, you just can't stand up, or at least not very well at all, because it's very hard if you're excessively bent. Like at the hips, for example, so heavy hair, I'm not joking, on the rear of your head, straightens you out vertically, okay? It's just what it does to the position of the head pivoting on top of the spine, and then the position of the spine traveling down to the feet, all the way through the whole body. So in order for us to open our rib cage and breathe fully, and in order for us to straighten our spine fully to the natural amount of, the natural curve in the spine, well, that's the same thing as opening the rib cage fully. These things have to happen by the muscles on our back working, contracting, pulling, and getting closer together. But that can only happen if the opposing muscles, meaning the muscles on the front, open up, elongate, or really, relax to the degree that they would need to, working in conjunction, the correlating amount of the muscles on the rear of the body contracting. You can't explain things this thoroughly and have an opinion on them that can matter. I don't have an opinion on this stuff. Clothing is what I mean. And racial divisions. Stop trying to divide people. The less you try to, the more you try to silence talking about race, the more division there is. Because now you've got the people who mention it and the people who don't, How about we're all human beings and just don't worry about it? What's your problem? I like to ask that question because people have a problem with things. Things aren't the problem. People have a problem with things. Things are only what they are. Like, I've got white skin, if you want to call it that. Someone else has black skin, if you want to call it that. You want to get real technical with it, go to your artist class. Go to your art friend, someone who really knows color, or a designer who really knows color. There's probably not even actually a white-skinned human being or a black-skinned human being to begin with. Anyway, this is what we do. Under In The Image Clothing Company, we say things that are scary. I'm serious, because the less you talk about race, the more it's there. You see what I mean? If you just make things known, it's like, oh, there it is. You're black, I'm white. Oh, what? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, your skin's darker than mine. You want to go get some ice cream? It's like, let's talk about it and not try to make it hush hush, and then all of a sudden it's a bad thing at that point. Anyway, we'll clip this, but the body, being behind yourself, the point is, you got these black girls with the big heavy braids out the back of their head. Good posture. There you go. It's a cheat code. Oh my gosh. All right. I'm not joking though. You got to talk about things that people don't want to, because truth is truth. The truth is we've got different pigmentations to our skin. The truth is we're from different parts of the planet Earth. And there's differences to our bodies to a degree because of that within the universal human design. And there's still things like, I heard a leaf blowing across the ground. It sounded like an animal was running toward me, and Dante's just laying here on the ground. Okay, good old Dante. Good dog. Okay, we've got differences where we do across the planet because there's differences to environmental things, like temperatures and humidities and elevation. And even within the universal human design, designed in the image of God, here's your clothing company, okay, our 5-word company name, In the Image Clothing Company, there's still differences to a degree where there is, I mean, between men and women, there's biological differences. Between people from Africa and people from, the Americas, okay, people from Antarctica and people from India, these continents, these parts of the earth, there is differences to people. And so before you start calling someone racist, don't. Anyway, we've got the need for our bodies to open in the front, okay? But in clothing design, if you're going to have excess material on the front or the rear, depending on which side it is, man, this is a beautiful video. What I'm saying is, man, that takes me back, man, in a good way. It like sets me back behind myself, so I can stand well. This is awesome. We have to have less material on the front than the rear, really. I mean, if it was going to be one or the other, because we have to open our bodies in the front more to stand vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. But seriously, you can't. I mean, ideally, we just have the same level of material, the same amount of material on the front of our clothing that we do on the rear, because we still have to stay even front to rear with the way we lean. You lean too far forward over just the length of your feet and you fall on the ground. You lean too far backward over just the length of your feet and you fall on the ground. But the heels of our feet are right at the bottom of our legs in the rear. The lever of the foot, off the hinge of the ankle comes forward, but our hips bend backward, and so there's opposing bends to the body. There's no opinion to this. This is what I mean. It's mathematics. It's mechanics. It's just truth. It's measurable. There's only one way the human body could ever work. So I know that it's kind of a big title, lengthwise, but the importance of no excess material on the front of clothing. This video's title on In the Image Clothing Company's main site on whatever the date actually is, the 8th or 9th of March 2026. It's a Sunday today. I didn't go to church. So let me make up for it by nothing, because you can't make things up to God. That's not possible. He's perfect and we're not. But do you see what I'm saying? What I'm saying is that I'm sinful. I love this so much. I mean, the genuine love that I have for this one specific video, and I'm not even through it all the way yet, I love this so much. Documented, date marked. Man, we have to open up the front of the body, okay? Because not only do our shoulders sit behind our head, and our spine is in the rear, which will straighten as we open the front of the body, the pelvis, or the structure of our hips, needs to tuck underneath us in a rotation that we call posterior to get us the most vertical on Earth's gravity's pull. Okay, and so if we've got material on the front of our clothing, this is the point. Our bodies will shorten the musculature on the front, and then now we excessively round our spine. We excessively bend our hips anteriorly, which is the direction they already bend. If we were to just bow or hinge at the hips forward, the hips bend anterior. So posterior is the opposite direction. It straightens us out more. If we tuck our hips underneath us, posterior, okay? We open up the hips, we grip the arches in the feet, we can then go off the ends of our different length toes evenly, and that's just how we open up the hips all the way, is if we tuck them all the way underneath us, posterior. But that's opening up the front of the hips. The shoulder, with its most open shoulder capsule, like internal rotation at its fullest, coming in toward the center line of the body the most, that's the collarbone or clavicle coming up and in, and that at its farthest most range of motion would actually be the shoulders all the way up and back behind the head, because all the muscles of the shoulder work together, and we're contracting the upper trapezius with the mid and lower trapezius, and all the muscles in the rotator cuff and behind the shoulder, you know, and all the muscles lifting the shoulder is the point, have to really work to get the shoulder in a mechanical position to where it can internally rotate at its full range of motion. That's lifting the shoulder up, and it comes back as well. Okay, and so this is opening our chest up by, you know, not having excess material on the front of our clothing. So this is what we have. In modern clothing design, we've got pockets on the front of tops. We've got zippers on the front of pants. We've got pockets on the front of pants. You know, here's the wind. But yeah, like right where our hips are. Right where our hip flexors are, meeting into our hips from our knee joint, and our quadricep muscles meeting into our hips from our knee joint on the front of the body. If you place anything in your pockets, that's like having an excessively excessive amount of material on the front of your clothing, okay? And your hips just can't open. For you to be behind yourself, for you to have full range of motion to your body, and just stand as vertical as you could on Earth's gravity. So the gravity just has the least effect that it could on your body, because our body's just vertically stacked with the bones, like the vertebrae of the spine. The little bones making up the spine, they stack vertically, you know? So the straighter we can get our bodies upward, you know, just standing straight up, well, they still have this little natural amount of bend in them. Well, the natural curve in the spine, the natural bend in the knee. The videos I referenced here under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company, there's a natural amount of bend to these things. And so we just can't excessively bend them, you know? And so just as straight as we can get, really, as straight as our bodies would naturally be, is what I mean. Standing upward is how we have the least effect on our bodies from gravity. And that's with our pelvis being able to tuck underneath us. But that's our pelvis not having anything in the way of it, okay? Our hips not having anything in the way of them in the front. So we've got zippers on pant designs, and they're in the front. And you've got just thick, bulky material there sometimes, around this time period at least, where you do, you know, in pant designs. So it just doesn't allow the hips to open all the way, and we just can't stand vertically all the way, you know, naturally. There's something in the way, because the top of the upper leg bone, called the femur, the head of the femur, the femoral head, it comes up and then it comes in a little bit when it meets into the acetabulum of the hips, okay? The ball of the femur and the socket of the hip. Just when the hips fully open, as we go evenly off the ends of our different length toes, the hips tuck posteriorly underneath us and just open up all the way. And then our spine is the most vertical it could be, you know, and our legs and our whole body. This is why I was saying what I was saying about heavy hair. No joke. You've got heavy hair on the back of your head, it just straightens you up more on Earth's vertical gravity pull than if you didn't have that weight pulling down at the base of your skull, because it actually straightens the spine, because just the position of the mechanics of how the body works, you know, the shape of the bones, just how they connect to each other, you know. Man. So, yeah, we have pockets on the front of the chest of button-ups sometimes. You know, you'll notice, you know, I mean, we'll always have button-up shirts available under In The Image Clothing Company. Once we start having that be the case, you know, Dante and I will move down to St. George, Utah, okay, about 3.5 hours south from where we are here in Utah County, Utah. And that's where we'll be based for life, as In The Image Clothing Company. And yeah, when we get down there, you know, we can set things up and start to do what we do, and we'll sell clothing. You know, we'll have our building down there where we will sell clothing from. We'll ship clothing. You won't come in to purchase it there. But our team will be there. In the Image Clothing Company's team will breed our purebred standard poodles there to advocate for purebred dogs and the importance for the health, okay, with keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes under another fourth of us in the Image Clothing Company Poodles, where we do the same thing we do for the human beings here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company with allowing the body to work. We titled it Letting Dogs Stay Natural. That's what we title it, okay? And In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. Our information applies to all dogs, but we specialize in purebred standard poodles for a lot of reasons. You know, it's a beautiful breed of dog. You probably haven't seen him in this video, but Dante, he's laying here on the ground. He's a standard poodle. And anyway, you know, we discuss eating, sleeping, standing, walking, sitting, breathing, hydration, everything we do for human beings and for dogs under In the Image Clothing Company's main side here and In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. So, you know, just your thick, heavy hair is one point. You know, just the excessive amount of material on the front of the clothing, if it is one point. You know, we discuss a lot of things here under In the Image Clothing Company. And anyway, St. George, Utah, it'll be awesome. You know, it's a true desert, beautiful sandstone, red rock, warm in the summers, relatively warm in the winters. It's hot in the summers down there, okay? It's a desert. It's a desert. Utah is a desert throughout all of it, but we get more snow up here in Utah County, and it's quite a different climate, really, you know. Different plants, different animals, different type of rock down there. It's awesome. It's just where we need to be for what we're doing is the point. So we'll get down there just within a month and a half, give or take, from today's date, whatever the date is exactly. The 8th or 9th of March, 2026. Okay, it's a Sunday, as I said. So we have, who am I talking to? Well, maybe billions of people, potentially. Time will tell, okay? Our bodies have to open up in the front. And so what I'm saying within the Image Clothing Company's button-ups that we'll ship out from our building down in St. George, Utah, you know, once we start doing that, you will never have pockets on the front of our button-up shirts. You know, you see me wearing button-ups. I'm wearing one here underneath this t-shirt. I just bought all this clothing that I'm wearing used, by the way, just for context. But we have the need for no pockets on the front of button-ups because you have to open your chest up to breathe. You have to open your chest up for your shoulders to sit where they naturally do, behind the head. You know, you have to open your chest up, you know, just meaning your rib cage, and it just naturally expands like that. And yeah, that travels down to your feet and to your pelvis, which is between your chest and your feet, you know, your hips. Your whole body, it will be altered and affected if you just can't have even motion front to back with your shoulders, or even motion front to back with your pelvis, you know, really posterior or anterior with the rotations of the pelvis. This is why we talk about where clothing sits so clearly for every body, you know, man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. You're just a human being. Yeah, you got a problem with me talking about race. I've been talking about race since I said I don't want to anymore. So I walk instead, you know, when everyone else is running to conclusions or jumping or something crazy like that. Anyway, and that's how I word it. I've been doing that since the founding, like since the very start, give or take, you know, of In the Image Clothing Company, like very, very early on. I mention everyone. That's so crazy, because I really do, you know, when I talk about where clothing sits, because it's just a universal human design. And what I'm saying is that this is awesome. I love this video so much because we have this need to open up the front of our bodies, okay? So if you've got pockets on the front of your shirts, you know, most all the button-ups I think every single one of them, I'm almost certain is the point, that every single one of the button-ups I've worn under any In the Image Clothing Company content in the past 17, give or take, months of In the Image Clothing Company as of today's date, the 8th or 9th of March 2026, it's a Sunday, right? They've had pockets on them. I've bought the shirts used, you know, all the ones that I've worn up until today's date. Unless I bought them new, but they haven't been In the Image Clothing Company's design, is what I'm saying. No, yeah. Yeah. There's been no such thing as In the Image Clothing Company's clothing yet, as of today's date still. Yet is the point, okay? The 8th or 9th of March, 2026. It's a Sunday. Okay. I take the pockets off the front of my button-up shirts, if they come with them, you know, from other people's designs. I just, unpick the stitching and take the pockets off, because you have to open your chest. Talk about allowing the body to work. We give a lot of free modifications in clothing under In The Image Clothing Company. That's what I'm saying, When I started saying earlier, the rotated seams that are just in clothing where they are in modern day, robots stitch our clothing. Clothing goes down a conveyor belt, it gets stitched, and then it gets flipped around and stitched again. And so on two sides of the clothing, we've got stitches either going in the same direction, or we've got them rotating, and things just need to be even with Earth's vertical gravity pull when it comes to side seams of our clothing, like our tops, just down the sides of our bodies, or our pants down the sides of our bodies. Okay. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Side seams, ideally no side seams right against the actual body. Okay, but things like button-up designs and shirts where they have them, when it makes sense to have side seams down the sides, they just need to be even. And so In The Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification, we just talk about modifying rotated seams because our bodies have their own rotations, and so our clothing can't be rotating our bodies and have our bodies work, internal rotation or external rotation from the fingertips to the elbow and the forearm. We lock the hand out from the shoulder at the elbow between the two, and then the entire arm does the same thing. The hand becomes the shoulder, if you will. They do the exact same thing. Internal and external rotation from the foot to the knee, and then we lock the foot out from the hip at the knee between the two, and the foot and the hip do the same exact thing. From those neutrals, the pinky toe and the pinky finger straight forward, the pinky thumb, it's not called a pinky thumb, but the thumb is, straight forward, and then, there's rotations from there. So we just can't rotate our bodies with our clothing. Our clothing just has to sit on our bodies. What are you doing? He just whipped me with his tail as he's laying on the ground. It's like, I don't know what he was doing. Like, I don't even know how he did that motion, is what I mean. It was almost like he was falling off of something and he's just on the dirt. He's not on his towel. I brought a towel for him. Dante dog, right? Anyway, In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, if we would just have to have our collars centered. We talk about this for dogs on In The Image Clothing Company poodles, and for human beings here on In The Image Clothing Company's main side. Anything that clothes the dog, collars, leashes, harnesses, slip leads, bandanas, anything you place on or around the dog in any way to clothe it with something, these things have to just fit the dogs the way that our clothing does. So two phrases we put a lot of focus on under In The Image Clothing Company: keeping collars centered, and the importance of snug collars, for human beings or dogs or any animals that our information under In The Image Clothing Company poodles could apply to, even like pack mules or horses, goats and pigs. You've got service animals that people, have, that are not dogs, and things like this we place things onto. Anyway, there's a lot that we do under In The Image Clothing Company, and there's a lot of modifications we give freely for clothing, because clothing design often comes imbalanced, and the human body has to be balanced to stand on Earth's vertical gravity pull. Okay, so yeah, In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, but we've got a modification In The Image Clothing Company's pant zipper modification. This is what I'm saying, is this material here in the pant zipper area doesn't allow our hips to open in the front. If there's excess material in the front, because our hips open the most when they tuck underneath us posterior, and that's essentially, the front of the clothing having our bodies press against it. If we tuck our pelvis anterior, it's like the rear of our bodies pressing against the clothing back there. So yeah, the front of our pelvis will press against the front of our clothing when we posteriorly tuck the pelvis and open the hips. When we anteriorly rotate the pelvis, our glutes in the back, behind our hips, behind our pelvis, will press against our pants back there. So that's what I'm saying, is ideally we just have an even amount of material on the front of clothing as we do on the rear. But with pant design, because we have things like zippers, it's there and it's not on the back, meaning all that material that we could call a zipper is there, only on the front. And that's just restricting half of the pelvis's motion, the front half, rather than the back half. Do you see what I mean? Of the body, front to back. Of the clothing, front to back, from the side seams in the center of the front or back of the pants. Man, I love it, okay? It's just so real. It's a documentation. Like I say, it's our insurance policy. It's to show congruency. You know, it's just another date marked documentation under In the Image Clothing Company and any of the 4 sides that it is at the time. I mean, this is information that allows us to be credible and have longevity and be valid, because I've said these things on today's date, whatever it is exactly, the 8th or 9th of March, 2026. It's Sunday, right? That's why I keep saying it, because I mean, this is documentation, truly. I mean, this is for our company's sake, you know. That makes it more credible, is an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. And these things, you know, making these videos and just documenting the truth that we do and date marking it is one of the things that makes us more credible as time progresses. 40 years down the road, I'm still doing this. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I was discussing these things back in 2026, you know, and I could reference this video because it's permanent. The gift, as I call it, of video. I haven't said that yet in this one, but that's a big point that I say often. We do and always have done and always will do so much under what we call the gift. That's what I call the gift of video, okay? Under In the Image Clothing Company. I'm the founder, though, so if I'm calling it the gift of video and this is In the Image Clothing Company's information, then yes, I mean, that's where it's coming from, is the founder, you know? That's how that works, and that's what I mean, too, is it's kind of like my resume, in a sense. No joke. I mean, as our company, though, you know, not just me, Evan Strong, but our whole company. Just, I'm making these videos because it's documentation, you know, it's truth. So it's not my choice, don't believe me, that we need even amount of material in our clothing from front to back. There's a spider web right here. All right, man, there you go. The big focus is, that's the thing, is we'll have more material on the front than the rear of clothing items, almost always. You'll have pockets on the front of shirts. I mean, I would recommend, it's not my opinion, but this is the point, is you have to have even motion in your body front to back, or you're just limiting its motion. But what I would recommend to do to remedy the situation of what we have to have is removing the pockets from your shirts. If you purchase shirts that come with pockets on the front of your chest, you're just not going to be able to breathe naturally at all. There's no opinion to it. But if you don't want to have to do that, at least, don't let me tell you what to do, but at least don't button the pockets of your shirt on the front. You button down the pockets and you just restrict the motion even more of opening your chest to be able to breathe. It's no opinion. You don't have to care about fashion in the slightest. You don't even have to try to care about clothing in the slightest. It's the only thing physically placed on your body. There's only one way the body works. There's no opinion on that could ever matter. There's only one way the body works, so don't believe me. But let me discuss it. It's undisputed. The things we discuss, I couldn't discuss it this thoroughly if it wasn't just what was going on. So we just have to open the front of our bodies. Pockets on shirts. Zippers on the front, keyword front, of pants. We have to open the front of the hips just to stand. Okay? Fully extended in our ranges of motion, vertically on Earth's vertical gravity pull. Okay. The bones of the body are only the shape that they are. They just connect to each other how they do. They have to be able to do that. If you've just got bulky, excessive material in the front of your clothing, you just close off your body, because the body opens the most when the front opens. The spine's in the rear. Well, the foot hinges at the ankle and the lever of the foot is in the front. And that opens the front of the body the way it does, seen with context. It truly, that's how this works. We hinge forward at the hips, and that's our hips already bending. And so to fully extend them, there can't be anything in the front getting in the way. Anyway, so nothing ever in the pockets. I mean, if that's not clear enough, that needs to be very clear. I don't say that very often at all, you know, but I mean, don't ever put anything in your pockets, ever, if you want your body to work. It's just, I mean, you know, gravity has the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. And then now you place something in the pocket of your clothing that weighs more than your clothing already does, placed onto your body, that your body's hanging off the ground, opposing Earth's gravity, you know, all day already. Yeah, put something in the pockets amplified by the clothing is what I'm saying. You know, it's just your body's damaged. Also, you just put something in the front of your pockets, you bend your hips. Your hips have to fully extend. I didn't know these things. I just, I'm not as prideful as I sound in this case, at least. I didn't know this stuff either until I was about 24 years old. A couple years ago, I was doing just about all the things we discussed to not do under In The Image Clothing Company, and I'm the founder, you know, so I'm speaking out of personal experience, prayer and revelation, you know, trial and error. I mean, these are the ways that we have gotten to where we are as of today's date under In The Image Clothing Company. This is how it's happened, and this is what we do, you know, we preach what we've practiced. Okay, that's how we know how to talk about these things. That's how I can discuss stuff so thoroughly, because I've experienced it personally, you know. I've gotten out of chronic patterning myself. And there's a video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company titled, "It Took Me 2 Years." It's taken about 2 full years for me, with my level of knowledge and depth of understanding of these things and the human body's functioning and how to really allow the body to work, undisputed just how it works. You know, what we do under In The Image Clothing Company, it took me, the founder, Evan Strong, 2 years to rid the patterning in my body. You know, the scar tissue and the bone spurs, and just, you know, the problems in the body that build up. We live in this right-handed world, and 85%, give or take, of human beings are right-handed. And so we get into a patterning that's right-handed. Our clothing design, to the degree that it is right-handed. Products designed to be used, if they're designed to be used with one hand over the other, they're almost always designed for the right hand, because that's the vast majority of human beings across the planet, you know, right-handed people. So, anyway, there's just no opinion to what we're doing here. You know, we're not perfect. We're never going to be able to explain anything entirely exactly correct. Well, you know, we're just imperfect is what I really mean by that. So even if we did say it exactly correct, we're still not perfect as human beings. That's why we rely on a perfect God, Jesus the Christ. Man. Anyway, don't have more material on the front of your clothing than needed. You know, button-up shirts, they've got material. This strip of buttons right down the center. But it's right down the center. You know, In The Image Clothing Company's button-ups, you'll notice me, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. Anytime you see me wearing button-ups, even other people's designs that I've modified, they stay centered. You know, and In The Image Clothing Company's button-up shirts will always stay centered. You know, that's our focus. Our clothing and our dog products under In The Image Clothing Company, staying centered, fitting correct, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. There's no opinion on what it means to fit correct. It's just, you know, joints of body parts and joints of material. It's just what you could say as seams of body parts meshing with seams of material of clothing items placed onto us. You know, there's only one way the body could ever work, so let's just not alter it. Clothing could never be the fix, but if we wear clothing, it just has to be as minimal, simplistic, light, you know, as we can. Do everything clothing, do everything dog products. We'll breed our purebred standard poodles to be do everything dogs, like Dante here. He's the rescue from the South Utah Valley Animal Shelter, but he's an amazing example. He's a do everything dog, you know. So, anyway, there's just anything that it could be, because even just like stamps of design on clothing, you know, things like heat shrunk onto clothing, or words or phrases or logos or anything like this stitched into the front of clothing, it's just less pliable. There will be less motion there on the front than there will be on the rear, okay, because there's just more material. So that's the video's title. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot to this, and I love how this video turned out so much. The importance of no excess material on the front of clothing, okay? That's where we'll leave it, you know, because there's your context, and then go from there, you know, with what you need to understand. And if you want to, you know, purchase In The Image Clothing Company clothing when it's available, because that's why we'll have it, is because it's not going to alter your body, you know. We're not about sales by any means, but we're going to sell things that are just beneficial to have if you decide to purchase them from us, you know. That's the point. Oh my goodness, I thought I was stepping on his tail. You know, I mean, you probably heard him throughout this video where you did, but just to show you he's really here. Hey, Dante, Up. Hey. Good. Okay, Dante. Up, up. He's actually here. You can see him. There he is. Good boy. How's that nap of yours, man? Oh, good dog. Oh, good. Good boy. I'm going to give him some solid attention like that rather than just petting him for a very short amount of time because I asked him to get up out of his nap, you know, so make it at least kind of worth it for him to do that. Anyway, yeah, in the Image Clothing Company poodles. Things like showing how to hold leashes naturally, you know, so we don't alter our bodies as the owners of the dogs, and then discussing the height of dogs versus the height of owners, so we don't alter our body as the owners, you know. But just teaching how to be a good owner of dogs and what that means, you know, through feeding and just all these things, because us as human beings and the dogs as well, we're living in this modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth, but the dogs don't have a say. The dogs can't eat unless we feed them, and they can only eat what we choose to feed them. The dogs can't even go outside in most cases. Well, maybe not most, but in a lot of cases for sure. You know, yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, unless the owners tell them to. I mean, that's the thing is these are domesticated animals that wouldn't even exist, truly, until human beings did it through selective breeding. The breed of a poodle, it didn't exist until human beings almost made the breed of a poodle, you know, through selective breeding, selecting certain dogs to breed to almost make a new breed, you know. It's just unnatural to begin with, but if it's done intentionally, it can be fine, and we'll be playing into it under In the Image Clothing Company poodles anyway, you know, so that's the point, though, is, oh, good boy. He laid on his towel. Good. You know, we just show how to do things properly. We'll never do it perfect, but, you know, just trying to do things the best that we can here to give information, because we just don't know what we don't know, and we can't be held accountable for that, anything we don't know. But if we can teach things, then there you go. Like me right now, teaching you about your clothing. Everyone wears clothing. You know, you can address anything in your life, but you're doing everything you do in your life through and within your clothing. It's the only thing physically placed on us. It's all day, every day, and as we sleep, you know, in just about every single person's case. I mean, yeah, it is what it is. Anyway. We have In the Image Clothing Company music, another one of our fours, and a lot of what we do is show the sizing and setup of guitar, so we don't alter things like that neutral wrist or the natural rounding to our hands that correlates with the arches in our feet, as I was saying earlier in this video. On the 8th of March, 2026. It might be the 9th of March, 2026. I'm honestly just not quite sure. It's a Sunday. I know that much because I didn't go to church. I might stop over at the church after I film this video. I really might. See who's still there, and, you know, maybe. Anyway. Yeah, I really might. I was thinking about that before I filmed this. How real can we get? You know, blunt, bold, raw, and real In the Image Clothing Company. We're not trying to be anything else besides who we are, because you can't. So don't try to, you know. Rhythm and poetry, lyricism, spoken word, singing, guitar playing, geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ. What the messages is the music we make under In the Image Clothing Company music. And we really do a lot there. You know, we've got series and things like that, you know, that are going on. It's cool stuff if you think it's cool stuff. I think it's cool stuff. So anyway, thank you, you know. Stick around, hang out, do whatever you want to do, but sometimes that's not the best thing. There you go. Okay. Thank you.